Hello everyone, I'm Hannah Lloyd.
And I'm Charlotte Gilfillan.
Welcome to our podcast, Women in Wellies.
Each episode we will be inviting a guest to share their stories, experiences and lessons of working and living in rural Scotland.
We want to get to know the real women behind the Wellies and share them with you, our listeners. Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Women in Wellies. This week we are joined by Caroline Dunbar. Caroline, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Good. Can you kick us off, Caroline, by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do as a little introduction to yourself?
Okie dokie. So I'm Caroline Dunbar, and I am originally from York, but I've been up in Scotland since 1996. Spent a long time down in Edinburgh and East Lothian, and then my husband and I moved up to Duffus 10 years ago to take over his family estate, Duffus Estate, which is about 5 miles from Elgin in Moray, so northeast Scotland.
Absolutely gorgeous part of Scotland, one of my favourite coastlines that I absolutely love exploring. So I'm sure that was a bit of a shock for you moving from like York to Edinburgh, both lovely cities to live in, and then you're like suddenly in rural Moray and learning how to run an estate, because I'm guessing you didn't run an estate in Edinburgh before that, Caroline.
No. I had all sorts of things, but I had my own dog walking business before we came up here. No, I was running my own business and quite happy and settled living out in East Lothian. We always knew at some point we would have to make the move up, but we were quite happily ignoring it and putting it to the back of our minds. It was actually when so there's a big old family mansion house, Duffus House, on the estate, which had been leased to Gordonston for about 82 years. And back in 2012, Gordonston said that they weren't going to renew the lease on the building the next time it was up. And so that was, that was our kind of big prompt to get ourselves up the road. And Ed's dad wasn't very well at the time. And Ed had been coming up initially once a month and then once every couple of weeks to kind of do things up here. So the stars were aligning and we did think, right, okay, we do actually need to bite the bullet. And I have to say, it wasn't an easy move. I did come kicking and screaming, I have to say. I wasn't very happy. However, fast forward, and I absolutely love it, and I wouldn't move back, and it's definitely home, and it's just brilliant.
Can you tell us a bit about Duffus Estate, because you've got quite a lot going on the estate, and it's quite varied.
So essentially, on paper, it's quite a small traditional estate. It's got 4 farms, 3 are tenanted. 1 we got back in hand about 3 years ago. We contract that out, so that kind of just the farming kind of takes care of itself. We have a small amount of residential properties, and then I've been over time turning some of them into the holiday lets. So I did actually turn the first one into a holiday let before we actually moved up here back in 2009, so quite a long time ago. Fast forward now, we've got 5 holiday properties, which is my kind of main day-to-day job, managing those. We've also got Moray Coffee, which is a coffee hut down at Duffus Castle, which we launched a couple of years ago. What else do? Occasionally we started doing events, so we've got kind of mindfulness events, and I need to stop saying tree hugging events because it's far more than that. Although I believe there is some tree hugging involved. I don't know, what else have we got? Oh well, and the big thing, which is the redevelopment of Duffus House, which is a big ongoing saga. And then, we've also recently just gone in for planning permission as well, for a campsite in the grounds around Duffus House as well.
Quite a lot of tourism activity, but also I think the first time I kind of came across you, Caroline, and Duffus Estate was maybe Moray Businesswomen, and when I was involved in Highland Businesswomen, I think we did, and I remember hearing about like your outdoor nursery and stuff in the woods. So I think I really liked the way you've kind of made yourselves part of the community as an estate, as well as having clearly a big focus on tourism to bring income in as well.
Yeah, no, that was a big thing for us when we moved up. Actually, yeah, encouraging access. Because Gordonston had leased out the build like Duffus House, which is in right in the middle of the kind of main hub of the estate. It was really limited access actually, and there were big signs up around saying, no access Gordonston and stuff. And so actually a lot of folk locally didn't even realise that Duffus Estate existed, that it was family owned. The family have been here for hundreds of years and still live here. But a lot of folk just didn't have a Scooby. So actually it was quite liberating when the school did move out, being able to just rip out the signs, and it was just a big thing saying, we're here, come and walk your dogs, uh, um, and uh, and yeah, and explore, and then yeah, when we moved up actually for Earth Time, that was one of the things because our kids were quite small at the time. They were kind of 3 and 18 months, and that was one of the things that we got involved with our own kids at the time. Obviously, it's before they kind of moved their base onto the estate, and it's just really lovely getting kids out in the outdoors and doing crafts and outdoor activities. And Ed got involved more and more, and ended up he's on the board of Earth Time. And when they were looking to actually set up a kind of formal nursery, uh, um, it was around about the same time that the school were moving out of Duffus House, and we were like, "Oh, I think we've got a bit of fit here." So yeah, so they moved in years ago, and that's worked really well. And also, it's kind of raised our profile locally as well, with all the parents obviously kind of coming and going every day. So we're kind of getting our kind of sort of message out there a lot more.
Yeah, and I think, obviously I already said we met through like Moray Businesswomen, and I think you have very effectively integrated the estate as part of the community by integrating yourselves as part of the kind of wider business community in Murray and the local area, which I think is really important, and it's a really powerful thing that you guys have done in opening up in that way, which I think can be quite difficult when you come back somewhere and people are like, oh, there's new people, whether it's the same family, they're like, there's new people, who are they, what are they going to do, and integrating yourself and kind of opening the doors is really powerful.
Yeah, yeah, no, I suppose, yeah, without kind of thinking too deeply about it, that is kind of what we've done. I mean, I'm a really open person anyway, and like to, yeah, get involved with like the community and things, and but also it was kind of with joining things like the Murray Businesswomen and the Chamber of Commerce, it's kind of seeing it as a business, and as a business, l- yeah, for locally, and obviously, yeah, the tourist side of things, encouraging people in. So yeah, it's kind of flipping your thinking a wee bit more as well. But actually, yes, it's in the state, but it is a business.
So, Caroline, I first came across Duffus Estate. It would have been roughly about this time last year on an SLE walk and talk event.
Were you on that?
I was. I have to say, it was a brilliant day. It was really, really good. Really interesting, really insightful, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I will just say, as a bit of a coffee fanatic, I would encourage everyone to go to the Cooler Coffee Hut because it's phenomenal. I mean, the views over the castle, the coffee itself, it's just amazing. Absolutely loved it. It was a real kind of highlight of the day. But what I was really struck by when I did come on the SLE day was your passion for what you're doing and the kind of ethos and values behind what you're doing and what you're trying to deliver on the estate. And I'm really curious as to where you take your inspiration for all of this.
I spend a lot of time on Instagram.
You're in good company here then.
I, just- I,
A fellow addict, a fellow
Yeah.
addict.
like I'm basically I'm there trying to find like other businesses that are doing really really well, and I basically get lots of inspiration from other businesses locally and further afield that are doing well, and I'm like, oh, it is inspiring, and just seeing what stuff I could integrate back into my own business, or what things that I might change, or what yeah, I'd say definitely other businesses. It's also, yeah, receiving the feedback from guests is such a big boost. Just sometimes they pick up on things that you don't that you don't think that they're going to, or something that you've done that you don't necessarily think is going to make a big impression, and it's been noticed, and that's just lovely. I got an email just a week ago. I was out in the car and something pinged through, and I had a look, and it was a guest that had been staying at the Eco Cabin last weekend, and he just written this lovely email saying, I'm still here, but I wanted to just drop you this line that what a wonderful time he was having. He'd gone on a walk around the estate for a couple of hours and had seen over 24 different types of birds, and that just made his trip. And we've got wildlife journals in the cottages, and bird spotting books and stuff, and he was just there saying that he'd noticed all the little things that we'd done, and he wanted to say thank you, and that really made my day. That's doing things like getting feedback like that is definitely a kind of big boost and a push to keep going.
The Eco Cabin is really quite special, and we had a look at that on the day, and it's just gorgeous. It's been beautifully done, it's been beautifully finished, and I remember you saying that it was almost fully booked, I think, because it was so popular.
So we were due to open in March 2020, and then obviously that didn't happen. So that was quite gutting. But as soon as we were allowed to open in July of 2020, it just took off with a bang, and pretty much has hardly had any gaps in availability since. It's really satisfying. It's situated in the paddock. I think it was the old kitchen garden for the farmhouse, old Duffus farmhouse, which was the very first self-catering that we did. And so it's got exactly the same amazing castle views. And so for years, it's like, we should be doing something with that. We should be doing something with that. It's just sat there. There's head-high weeds and everything. And it was just like, we need to pull our fingers out and get something going in there. So I think I'd mentioned before that I go with my gut feeling with stuff, and my gut was telling me we had to put something there. So that's satisfying that's going really well.
Do you think that's been your favourite project so far, the Eco Cabin?
Well, you see, then you get Cooler, and Cooler's been really, really fun and hard work. Actually, Cooler's been more hard work. For something so small, and we tried to keep it very simple and just to focus on quality cake and coffee. Actually, there's a huge amount of running around in the background that I don't think we really particularly anticipated it was going to be as hard work. But again, when you get loads of repeat customers, and I was in the hairdressers once, and then you hear people talking about Cooler with other people that are in the salon, and you're like, that's something that we've done. I'm sat there going,
I love that. Caroline, even there, we've just touched on you've seen opportunities with the Eco Cabin, with Kula, and you've taken them, and having that success has been good. Can I just ask, were you are you big coffee fans yourselves? Is that why Kula appealed, or are you going to turn around and tell us that you don't drink coffee?
Oh, no, I love coffee. Both of Ed and I just drink black Americano. We're not super adventurous, blah blah blah. But we love food and drink in general. We both met whilst on Majestic Wine's graduate training scheme back in the kind of 2002, 2001. So we love food and wine and anything eating, drinking related. So we knew we were going to do a coffee hut there, and we knew that whatever we were going to do, we had to do it to the best quality that we could. But yes, we both just like a very basic black Americano. Although you can get lots of other choices down there.
So Caroline, when we asked you about kind of experiences and things before, you mentioned in your pre-notes, you mentioned Moray Coffee Week. Tell us a bit more about Moray Coffee Week, because that sounds right up Charlotte Street. I'm a non-coffee drinker. I'm a tea person, so a coffee week's probably not for me. But tell us a bit more about Coffee Week.
So this has been mulling around in the back of Ed and mine's mind since last May, so almost a year. We decided to go down to Glasgow and went to Glasgow Coffee Festival, which is a bit of a jolly, really. We thought, oh, we own a coffee hut. We could go to something like this and be legit. So went down to Glasgow, had our like cooler coffee cups that we've got, and like walking around. We own a coffee cart.
I think it's probably just as well your children weren't with you at that.
Oh dear. But yeah. So anyway, we came back up, totally buzzing and thinking, oh, it was really good fun. And we were like, oh, there's been such an explosion in other coffee carts and coffee roasters and really cool, funky cafes in Moray over the last couple of years. And so we were kind of last May, last June, we were kind of chatting away, trying to work out something we could do that would connect all these sort of small businesses up. And we had a chat with a couple of them, and we just couldn't really find a way of how we were quite going to push it forward. And then actually through Instagram, I met a lady called Sarah Lorraine who had moved up here 2 or 3 years ago. Loads of experience of running events and sort of big events and marketing and things. We met for coffee down in a cooler last summer and started batting around ideas. And yeah, and she's basically the person with the kind of the skills to create the event, but it's been quite fun. I've been in the background kind of helping organize. So yeah, so basically between us we've managed to create Murray's first coffee week, which is the 19th to the 25th of May. And there's 16 local businesses, so it's a mix of cafes, coffee roasters, coffee vans, light cooler throughout Moray. And we've decided that unlike Glasgow, where it was all under one roof and one specific place, obviously Moray is very, very different and we don't have the same footfall. So we decided to have it as a focus with outdoor activities, basically, because so many of, like with Cooler at Duffus Castle and lots of others, there's loads of walking basically on the doorstep. So each business that has applied to be part of it, obviously they're promoting their coffee and their product and everything, but also are promoting where you can go for walks locally and get outdoors basically. And then each business has be running at least one, if not more, kind of special events during the week. So yeah, it's quite exciting.
It sounds fantastic, Caroline, and I really love that you're bringing together kind of the coffee and the local businesses with kind of the benefits of getting outdoors and timing kind of in nature and outdoors, because I know that that's something you're really passionate about as well. And I know that when you were in East Lothian, you joined your coastal rowing club. What happened with that when you moved north?
I was bereft. Oh, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I've always been kind of outdoorsy, but I've never really stuck at any one sport. I've just enjoyed being outside and lots of walking and hiking and things. But when I tried the coastal rowing, that was just the one thing that just clicked with me, and I just loved it. And then when we realised we were going to be having to move north, I was absolutely gutted to kind of leave the club behind. So we moved up January 2013, and then I basically moaned continuously for about 6 months. Because at that point in time, the two nearest clubs to me in Duffus were either Portsoy in one direction or Ardisia in the other, and there was like nothing along this stretch of coastline. And then I was actually at a wedding with Ed's boss, Peter, and I was talking to him about it, and he just turned around and was like, "Well, do something about it then." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, maybe I will." And so yeah, basically, he kind of gave me the boot on the backside, and was just like, "Well, stop moaning, and go and do something about it." So yeah, so it was quite bizarre. I basically then contacted the Northern Scot and the P&J and just said, "Right, can you do this article for me?" does anybody want to start a rowing club? And yeah, so I got a couple of articles in, and it really literally was just like me, photograph of me at home on a harbour, basically saying, "Hi, does anybody want to build a boat?" We had an open meeting at Burghead in a pub there in a back room, and some of the Portsoy club members came over to help me, and randomly, actually, there was a room full of people, which was petrifying because I'd never done anything like that before. Literally standing up in front of a room of complete utter strangers, just random people that had read these like newspaper articles, and basically, yeah, kind of explained all about Scottish coastal rowing and how it's all community orientated. Uh, um, every single club around Scotland basically has communities have come together, fundraised themselves, bought the boat kit, and then built their own skiffs themselves, which really kind of roots people in the community because they've hand built it as well. It really it's a really strong, powerful thing. Uh, um, so so basically we got enough people, we formed a club, got constitution, got bank account, started fundraising, and so we'd got actually enough to buy, that was in the summer of 2013, we'd got enough to buy the boat kit and start building by the 1st of March 2014, and then we launched on the 1st of November 2014. So the club's coming up for 10 years old, and the boat's coming up for 9 years old at the moment.
That's absolutely brilliant, and I love the way that coastal rowing. I mean, I know a few people who coastal row kind of near me in Ayrshire. I know somebody who coastal rows in East Lothian. Margie Campbell, who was on episode 6, I'm gonna say, Charlotte. Tell me that's right. Yeah, episode 6. She coastal rows at Cromarty, and I love the little communities that kind of come together, and yeah, like you say, build that boat together, and then you're all kind of like probably got everyone's blood, sweat, and tears mixed in with it, doesn't it? So
as somebody I think from the Ardisia Club said to me as we were building the boat, that one thing that's really bad about like community groups is the community in the groups. And that rang quite true at the time. But no, actually it's brilliant. I was out for 2 hours rowing this morning, and it's just the best thing. You don't think about anything else, like your mind just clears of all the rest of the crap that's going on, and you're just trying to spot those dolphins is basically what we spend most of our time doing.
Do you just row off like kind of the Moray coast, or have you been anywhere else coastally rowing?
Well, obviously on a day-to-day basis we are based in Birkhead, so our main rowing is there, but the regattas have taken us all around like the coast of Scotland, every summer from like April to October. I mean, you could spend every weekend going to the competitions, but we try to kind of do 1 or 2 a month. And then we've gone to a couple of world championships. There was one across in Northern Ireland, and then there was one down in Stranraer 4 years ago. So yeah, and then actually we've gone down to London and taken part in the Great River Race, which is a kind of marathon 26 miles down the River Thames. So that was a few years ago. So yeah, we've had some epic adventures with the.
That's really cool, and I guess it's also for you, it's a good way probably to kind of get off the estate, get away from kind of running everything, give yourself some headspace, both kind of the everyday stuff, but also the kind of more epic adventures and competitions, which we all need. And like I know we've talked on this podcast, in other episodes about people wild swimming. I wild swim. Charlotte walks her dogs. Everyone has those things to kind of help you clear your head, and that very much sounds like for you coastal rowing is one of those things for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. But being by the sea increasingly since we're now in our 11th year of being up here. Yeah, I mean I swim as well, and then paddleboard, and then we've got a kayak, and there's never enough time in the day to do all the stuff that I want to, I want to do. But yeah, it's lovely being close to the sea. Yeah.
Charlotte and I were just saying this week that how much we'd love to just like completely quit our jobs and retire and just be able to be outside and enjoy Scotland particularly at this time of year where we've had like gorgeous sunshine and everything looks so good, and you're like, I just want to be able to be out in this every day. If only I didn't have to have a job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've actually, Ed and I have been in the foulest mood this week because although it's been the best weather, we had said that we were going to decorate our son's bedroom while he was away on his P7 residential trip. And it was his birthday yesterday when the day he got back and we had to get it finished. So literally, like, yeah, every evening till kind of midnight, it's been painting and flat pack furniture building and cursing because the weather has been the best it's been all year.
Caroline, you've previously been really open about some of the challenges that you've faced on the estate. Are there any particular challenges that stand out for you, and how have you overcome these?
Well, the kind of biggest challenge, which is the one we have yet to overcome, is the redevelopment of Duffus House. So again, as I've mentioned previously, it's the old mansion house on the estate that was lived in by the family up until the 1930s, when Ed's granddad decided to downsize, and somehow he knew Kurt Hahn, who was the guy that set up Gordonston, and had said, "Hey, I've got a building. Come and use this one." So the school started leasing it in about 1930, 1930s, and basically had it for 82 years. And so obviously there was an rental income coming in from that, but when the school left in 2017, obviously that stopped. And then this building has started to cost us loads of money, sat empty. So between loads of obviously council tax and times 3 and then doubled, and insurance and utilities. It's the building has gone on to be quite a challenge. So back 10 years ago now, which is quite scary, when the school said they were going to leave, we did our first feasibility study done, looking at all sorts of options. We then narrowed it down. We went for planning permission and the building warrant. And what we'd hoped was downstairs to have a cafe, retail, event space, and then upstairs a mix of more holiday accommodation, basically. We had lots of basically we're really going quite far down the route of making it happen. Pre-COVID, we were just about to go to tender, and we had the business plan all sorted. We hadn't completely finalised how we were going to pay for it, but the figures were looking challenging. But we thought, we can make it happen. And then obviously COVID, and then after that, we then went out to tender about 18 months ago, and then the costs had at that point doubled. They've probably gone up even more by now, and it just blew it out of the water. It's like there's just no way that we can make this work. And then throw in a good bit of dry rot as well, which is fun. So yes, by last summer we were just like had to accept that basically in its present form our plans are not going to work. But obviously, I mean, it's frustrating because you feel like you're wading through mud and treading water. You want to push forward, you want to make it happen, but sometimes obviously things conspire against you. But equally it's like, well, what are we going to do then, because we need to keep pushing forward. So we'd actually just come back from a week's camping in the Lake District last summer, and we're like, right, let's do a campsite. So we have gone in for planning. We've yet to get the results, but fingers crossed. So the plan is to have tents in the old walled garden, which currently has my mini flock of sheep in. And then we've taken back in hand a big 27-acre field right in front of Duffus House. So the plan is that we'd hope to just put about 20 hookups along the very top edge. And then last summer and autumn, we've been working with a landscape architect to basically replant up this huge big field, and block up some field drains where it is naturally really wet anyway, and create a natural wetland, and put in some wildflower bits and orchard and lots of walks and trails and things to kind of make it a destination, obviously for the people coming to stay at the campsite and the cottages, but also for everybody locally, with the hope being, if we get enough footfall, 6 months of the year with the campsite and things, we can maybe revisit things at least with the cafe in Duffus House, and come at it at a different angle, basically. So that is what we're working on.
It's such an exciting project, though, and it's really impressive how you have come up against these challenges and, in seeking to overcome them, have adapted your plans, have gone in a different direction. And I don't know, were you always contemplating kind of some sort of camping site once the Duffus House was done, or is this a new idea that you've considered?
It's new. I think, ideally, if we could have just done Duffus House, then that's what we would have just done. And I mean, we always wanted to get back in hand the big field, because it's right beside the property, and actually for us to replan that up and develop that, in a natural way, was always something that we wanted to do. But actually, yeah, now we're thinking about the campsite, it gels together, with people that they're wanting to come and enjoy the estate, then it's just more space for them to enjoy, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, just going back to one thing that's just stuck with me that you mentioned at the start about coming up kind of kicking and screaming originally. I mean, how do you feel now about being on the estate and doing what you're doing?
oh, I mean, yeah, I do absolutely love it now. I mean, yeah, I grew up in Yorkshire in the countryside, and yeah, I just feel incredibly lucky, that we have got, well, yeah, we live here in the most beautiful place. I was sat recording like a red squirrel, just down the drive this morning, and I'm like, we see them almost daily, but every single time I see them, I just think, oh my god, how lucky am I? Like, yeah, I suppose overall incredibly lucky. But yeah, we do feel that responsibility hugely, and I think it's possibly something that people don't necessarily see. They just see that, oh, look at you, you've got this huge big house, and you've got all this land, and blah 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 blah. But yeah, it comes with a lot of responsibility, and sleepless nights and stress. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's a lifestyle, really, and I think I've kind of grown into the sort of lifestyle of it, as the years have gone by. Um, yeah, when we first moved up, and it's obviously because it's not a 9 to 5, and I could be at the primary school tons, and lots of folk would be, oh, it'd be so lovely to be like, you don't work, it'd be so lovely. And I'm like, as I'm drifting away.
Nothing could be further from the truth.
But yeah, I would say overall, yes, incredibly lucky.
I was just gonna say, I think one of the things, just as you've just talked through that kind of the challenge of Duffus House, and I've heard you talk about that over like since like for years, and thinking like this is just ongoing. But I just was like sat here in admiration of how much resilience you and Ed have got through that, because like it would be so easy just to be like, we're done. Dry rot is just a step too far, or this is just a step too far. But the level of resilience that you have shown, and I think the level of resilience that running a business that's so diverse, you've got so many elements we've talked about here, and I'm sure there's other things going on that we haven't even like touched the surface of on the estate, and it's and there's so much going on, but I just wanted to say that I think I really admire the resilience that you guys have developed and demonstrate.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny, like, yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, behind the scenes, I'm like, you can be tearing your hair out. Oh my god! Then equally, you'll wake up the next day and just like, well, yeah, just need to crack on. I don't have a choice, really.
So Caroline, we draw all our episodes to a close by asking our guests the same question. So it's your turn today. What's one piece of advice you would give to the next generation of rural women in Scotland?
Obviously, I thought about that when you pinged me earlier. And I've kind of tried to, when I was thinking about it, is just put down the first thing that that came to mind, because you could end up like thinking about that for ages and tying yourself in knots. So yeah, so basically I said, don't let yourself be defined by what others think of you or what they think you're like, basically. Yeah, as I'd kind of had alluded to in my notes and things, I'm very aware of what people potentially think of me from the outside looking in. But yeah, it's basically be yourself, and no matter what you're doing or where you're from or anything, just be yourself, and um, yeah, basically prove yourself that way. Work hard and do your thing, and yeah, people will hopefully respond to that and appreciate that. And if not, Sodom.
You know, in other episodes, we've had a similar theme of surrounding yourself with a network of like-minded people, and people you can rely on when as you said in your words in your notes, Caroline, when the going gets tough, people you can rely on and can be there for you. And you are right. You have to, you kind of weed through people to find those people and to be there, and so that you can show up authentically as yourself, and not be defined by what others think of you, or might think of the stereotype of like an estate owner, what an estate owner looks like, what an estate owner does, the way an estate owner behaves, or any of those things. So I think it's a absolutely fantastic piece of advice. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So, Caroline, thank you so much for joining us today to share your stories, experiences, and lessons.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been fun. It's been good. Thank you.
If you would like to connect with Caroline on social media and find out more about what's happening at Duffus Estate, the links will be in the show notes below.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, follow us on Instagram at Women in Wellies Podcast to stay up to date with all the latest news.
And you can email us with any questions on womeninwelliespodcast@gmail.com, and we'd love it if you could leave us a review and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Until next time.